Welcome to my Pilates Mödling talk number 12 with my special guest, Allie Greeene, whom I met only 6 days ago on email and 4 days ago on Zoom. Allie, would you like to tell us how I met you?
Well, I wrote an article for Brett Miller for Pilates and Tell, and I should go back to how I met Brett because it's all just so beautiful. So um, I happened to cross him. Like I'm always looking for interesting people, and I happened to cross a video that he had done on a specific Pilates exercise, like a little bit more advanced one. And at the time, I had a client who was really interested in like breaking down all those advanced exercises, and she was able to do it. So I showed her this video, and she said, "This is wonderful. Ask him if he'll break down snake." So I was like, okay.
Oh,
So
that's good. That's my nemesis. That's my nemesis exercise. Cool, cool.
well, he teaches it beautifully. So I reached out to him and I said, I found this video and I have this client, and would you be willing? And he said, oh my gosh, yeah, that'd be great. Or I should say, oh my gosh, Ali, absolutely. And so he did this beautiful video, and I think I friended him on Facebook, and then I'm like, wait a minute, how do you and I have some of these same friends?
Okay.
And so I reached out to him, and and it turns out that he had lived in Pittsburgh for a period of time,
What a coincidence.
coming to Point Park. Now it's university for dance, but then of course Brett, Mr. Both Sides of the Brain, was also going to the University of Pittsburgh for mathematics. So we did not connect when he was here, but he was here, so we had some of the same dance teachers.
Oh.
And yeah, so we just really hit it off, and he started talking about wanting to come to the States to do a little tour, and teach some workshops. So I said, come to my studio. So he did twice, and it was wonderful. And so we just kept up this friendship and communication, and he invited me to Stockholm this summer. So I wrote an article to try to help explain a little bit of what I do, because I'm definitely not. I teach traditional, I'll use that word. I'm not classically trained. I'm a contemporary style teacher. I have deep appreciation for classical, though. I don't think anything needs to be on two sides of the fence. And, it's actually why I teach the way I teach. I really want people to feel cohesive in their bodies and with each other.
And could you tell us about the topic of the article? Why did it resonate with me?
So I think, I mean, the whole name of my workshop is, Embrace Your Inner Space, an embodied perspective to Pilates. And I am trying to have people understand that what I'm offering is not different. It's a deeper dive into feeling, sensing yourself. And I think a lot of people think, oh, that means I'm going to go roll around on the floor, feel myself. And some of that does happen because we need to have so I break it down. It's like, okay, what's the focus? And then what's the embodied anatomy? So the class that you took, the embodied anatomy,
Yeah.
not the biomechanical.
Yeah, we touched our feet, we touched our tibia, we touched our everything, our hip bones before we moved them. That was amazing. That was such a good anatomy class by touching your own self.
Yes.
And then you felt where you were.
Yeah. Yeah. And really that's, I want to have more of that. And so, yeah, so I wrote this article trying to explain that this isn't different, that you're still going to be doing Pilates. It's just with a different focus, with all of this new information. And it's the language of the body. It's the language of the body. There's nothing wrong with biomechanics. We need to label, we need to understand, we need to, but when it comes to movement, you know, I don't want to be picked apart. I don't want to, and yes, if you have an injury or things going on, absolutely, we want to have a focus. We want to make sure that we are creating, in my language, creating very clear pathways for energy to travel, because that is the language of the body.
Right, because we work in Pilates, we work the body as a whole, the healthy part, and so this heals the unhealthy part.
Yes, because the everything else in the body is still connected to that part. So it's basically the invitation to come back online, or and I feel like teaching and moving through this lens constantly reminds us, no matter what is going on with us, that we are whole.
Exactly.
We are whole, and we're always moving towards health, even when we have an injury or an illness, or we're not broken. We don't need to be corrected. It's really, everything in us is an adaptation. It's an expression of our experience at that moment. And because we're in process, and we have been since the day we grew ourselves, in utero as a little, embryo, we have the capability of always moving forward with ourselves, or until the day we take our last breath.
Right, and this is what you mentioned also in your class on Saturday, the embryo development still going on in our spirals in the body.
Yes. So we don't you don't turn 5 and then 6 and then lose your 5-ness, right? You carry all of yourself within yourself. The person right here today is a full expression of all of those experiences that I've had in my lifetime. And it's the same with our physical development. So we never lose cellular breath.
Right.
We never lose the movement that happened when we grew an umbilical cord.
Right.
So all of these are still expressions in our body, and it's all in all of us. It's all there. Some of us have expressed more of it than others for various reasons. Sometimes we don't get to fully express something when we're developing, or there can be an interruption, again, because of an illness or a surgery or a trauma, but it's there. It's there. So everything we need is within us.
Okay, so I was asking myself on Saturday, when you told us about the foot, the 3 toes being the mobile part and the 2 outside toes being the stable part. Why do I sprain my ankle so much? Why, although I'm wearing barefoot shoes, I try to walk barefoot a lot of, I try to train my feet, I'm still getting this part that you said is stable is too mobile for me. And the other one that's should be mobile is too stiff. So why does this come about? Is it the sitting? Is it the shoes? Is it my movement? What is it?
I mean, it's hard to say. Sometimes we are never going to know the actual story. I mean, that could have started when you were a baby.
Oh, right.
So we all have these, there's many types of, I could say, developmental patterns that we move through. Reflexes. We have our neurocellular patterns is the fancy word for it. Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen calls it. Yield, push, reach, pull. We have this unspiraling of our legs and our feet. And part of that push that's happening is happening down on the ground, when we're learning to move around on the floor. So we're building up that, so I have a client who really does not have a lot of sensation in the pelvis,
Yes, yes.
uh,
Yeah,
tail
I am.
tucked, sits
Uh-huh.
back, pushes the
Yeah.
pelvis forward. I work with his feet and I work on that push pattern. He's more of a somatic client, but like, for example, one of my sessions, first I'm going to help to down regulate the nervous system because we're all a kind of a hot mess these days. So I do some very somatic work, or there's something called micro movements, and something that's really going to help ground that person. I think there's such value to that. That is, when we have a more calm body, we are more easily going to repattern.
Yeah, right.
So, and then I'm going to look at where did the process get lost? Where is that? And what system is it in? Is it in multiple systems? Is it just in, as Pilates teachers, we're very interested in the musculoskeletal system, which is fabulous. But there's all these other systems in the body. Your organs came first, and they absolutely have an impact and a relationship on our bones and
Wow.
therefore our muscles.
Right.
So looking at everything, is it the nervous system? Is it the fluids? Is it the fascia? Is it the bones?
Mm.
So, and then where is that process lacking? So that's why a lot of times I look to the feet, because, um, coming to standing, that's where a lot of people, things happen. We're still going to walk. We're still going to get
Mhm.
upright. It's not
Yeah,
like,
that's the amazing thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because all of our movement it's an expression, and it comes from intention.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we're going to walk because, well, mommy and daddy are up there,
Right,
or
we copy. Yeah.
or I want to go and get that cookie. So, but then some of us don't go through that patterning. So as far as what's going on with your feet, honestly, for me, it would be hard to say without seeing you,
Yeah.
move and walk.
But I must say, I was told that I started walking very late and I left out the crawling. I left out the pushing off. So
So
that's
there you go.
interesting. That's
So I would say
interesting.
to you, go back and crawl.
I'm doing that. I'm doing
Yeah,
animal movement. I'm doing that. And I had a very hard time some years ago, but now it's like natural.
yeah,
Crawl,
yeah.
crawl.
So you're expressing that,
Ah,
and that
okay.
has a huge impact not only on our physical self, but also our psychological, our emotional, like all of that's wrapped in.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so Ellie, how did you get so interested in the feet when you were a dancer before? Because your feet got a bad treatment at that time, didn't they? Or is this bad to say?
Just no, to say the least. I mean, you're basically taking them and putting them in these like hard shoes. Yeah, I've always, like, just innately felt ways about certain places in the body. It's why I really, it's like 5 years ago, really wanted to start looking for something else, like, to complement my teaching. I was just feeling like I was lacking something, my clients were lacking something,
Oh,
especially the self-agency, I really wanted, I had spent a lifetime, I started dancing when I was 4, ballet dancer. I
wow.
danced professionally for a number of years, and then got really mentally burnt out. I mean, half of ballet or dance, I think ballet is, half of it is the physical and half of it is the mental.
Oh, wow.
And it's hard. It's a hard, profession to be in.
Yes.
Um, so I stopped dancing, and then I actually bummed around for a few years. I was like a assistant manager of a clothing store, that kind of thing.
Good, good, good.
And then I went back to school, and I have a degree in sociology and performing arts. And I'm always fascinated with people and why they do things, and in particular, the power of the group. Um,
Mhm.
and so I studied that, and I actually started working with children with special needs. I specialized in working with children with autism.
Okay.
I also did programming for adolescents, at-risk youth. I worked in a detention facility for about 8 months, working with
Wow.
male juvenile sex offenders.
Oh my
Um,
God.
very interesting. Yeah. So
And
the one,
how did you keep sane during this kind of work?
for me, it was such a passion project
Yeah.
that I, you know, it was so interesting to me. I never felt, I mean, towards the end, it was the institution that I worked for that I was like, oh, I can't do this.
Mhm.
And but as far as working with the people I worked with, it was fantastic.
Okay.
And I always used movement. So no
Hmm.
matter, I mean, even with, male juvenile sex offenders, we were doing creative stuff. We were, moving with our bodies. We were creating art projects. We were, it was the creativity. It was the expression of self.
Yeah.
And so I've always used that. And then I was starting to get involved with a modern dance company. I danced with them for maybe 5 years. And then it was that period of time I was like, okay, I need something else, like, and I needed to be movement. Can you make a living teaching
Yeah.
movement?
Yeah.
Like, so I started down the path and got certified through STOT,
Okay.
uh, through their Pilates program, and taught all over the place. And then finally in 2013 opened a studio with another wonderful Pilates teacher.
And you still run the studio?
I still run the studio. It has metamorphosized many times. It's a really hard job.
It is. It is. Yes, and I'm so happy that I sold my big one.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
only in one room now because
yeah.
there's a computer.
I downsized last year, and it was the best decision. So we have very few classes. We do mostly privates, duets, and I have during the pandemic, I built an online studio with a web designer. But that's kind of like so this is the metamorphosizing. So finding that a lot of my clientele locally are not super interested in virtual. They want to be coming into the studio.
Ah,
So I'm going to be, the game plan for the next year. I already have an online membership, which I'm going to tweak a little bit. And I want to develop more of the online space to be.
very good. I'm sure people here in
Yeah.
Europe would be interested.
Yeah. So I
Not,
want
not
to,
everybody can travel, but they want your content.
yeah, like you wanted to come to the virtual reformer, and that was something that I opened like during COVID, but I don't love that because it's so hard to and so I'd rather do one or the other. And
Okay.
so I want to develop a series of reformer classes with specific focus with the embodied anatomy. I want to do the same thing with, making little mini workshops, like the
Okay.
class that we did on the feet.
Cool.
Oh my
Cool.
gosh,
Yeah.
that could be a 2-hour mini workshop.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Where would people find you if they are interested in such classes and workshops?
So they can go right now to my studio website. So it's eqpittsburgh.com, and everything's linked and connected, because my other, it's like I have the studio, and then I'm going to move my camera.
Okay.
Then I have
Soma movement.
Soma
Yeah.
movement,
Good.
which is really me.
Yeah.
That's all kind of meshed in, but it's time to kind of pull it apart and have two standalones. Yes, and I want to develop more of the Soma movement. I want,
Very interesting.
especially right now, I think it's so important for health, and I want people to have a really joyful experience. I want them to understand unequivocally that there is no perfect teaser. There's only your best experience of your teaser,
Yes.
Yeah.
And this teaser can have short legs, bent
Yes.
knees,
It's
But along is fine.
yes, it's your experience that's more important than anything else.
Oh, thank you. That's a very nice closing sentence. Thank you very much.
I'm so glad we met.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.